Greetings, everybody, wherever you may be, and welcome once again to French Guiana, the home of the Ariane family, for tonight's launch of Soyuz, the second Soyuz to fly from French Guiana after the historic maiden voyage last October. Those of you who were lucky enough to have seen it, you know what I mean. More of that brand of excitement is ahead tonight. Joshua Jampol here with Jérôme Rive. Jérôme is Program Director from Arianespace's Commercial Directorate. Good evening to you. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening, Josh, and welcome to all of you watching us on the internet, wherever you may be. It's indeed exciting to be here with you less than 2 months after the first Soyuz flight from the Guiana Space Center on October 21st. This will remain in our memories as a major event in space history and also a major event in history, only 20 years after the end of the Cold War. But let's listen immediately to Jean-Pierre Barlet, our Launch System Operations Director.
The first Soyuz launch last October was a huge success all around. Thanks to the maturity of the system, with nearly 1,800 launches, very few problems came up during the campaign.
The advantage we have is the maturity of both the program and the launcher. We had it already for the first launch of Soyuz in French Guiana. Back in June, we announced that the launch date for the first Soyuz would be October 20, and on October 20, we were on the launch pad. We were able to benefit both from the vast experience of the launcher and from the launchpad construction in Baikonur. This meant that we had very few problems during the qualification phase and during the first launch campaign. This is true once again for this second campaign. The launch date was announced nearly 2 months ago, and today, here we are, ready to go.
Lessons learned from this first experience were many, so much so in fact that the operational teams here have already begun developing certain habits.
This learning experience began with the first Soyuz campaign and continues with the second. Today, after a 4-month campaign on the launchpad, we can truly say that habits are starting to form. The Russian and European teams have now reached the stage where they can work together smoothly and in harmony.
Outside, Soyuz waiting on the pad at this late night hour. We're going to go inside Jupiter for a first look at some of the key players responsible for making the launch happen. This first group will be the Flight Directorate, Arianespace's top management. The three gentlemen, Jean-Yves Le Gall, Edward Perez, and Patrick Loire.
Yes, Josh, if I may, I would say a few more words about Edward Perez. He's Arianespace's Chief Technical Officer and as such is the top technical authority for Arianespace's launches. In particular, he acts as a chairman of the various reviews aiming at validating the launch system readiness prior to launch.
Patrick Loire there heads up the Arianespace facilities here in Kourou. He was named the post earlier this year. He's the point man for the Space Center. Any problem comes up, he'll hear about it first and contact the base authorities. You also saw some key players on the Russian side there.
Yes, true. But now I suggest listening to a description of the second Soyuz launch campaign by Dmitry Baranov, the Launch Vehicle Operations Director from TSKB Progress in Samara, which is about 1,000 kilometers southeast of Moscow.
The main phases of Soyuz in French Guiana are its arrival in Kourou in a container shipped from St. Petersburg, transport by road from Pardiakaibo to the base, assembly of the launch vehicle, which is transported block by block to the MIC, preparation of the launch pad, tests in the MIC, and then the launch itself.
Soyuz is prepared in French Guiana following the same principles as those applied in Baikonur. However, there are certain differences like the use of a mobile gantry on the launch pad and the upper composite vertical operations.
In French Guiana, the upper composite is transported vertically and the entire launcher assembled in the launch zone. In Baikonur, the entire launcher is assembled in the MIC and the composite is transported horizontally. That is the main difference between a Soyuz campaign and a campaign in French Guiana.
As the European crews learned lessons from the first launch, so did the Russians. These lessons, for example, enabled them to even shorten the launch vehicle campaign for their second Soyuz launch.
We considerably curtailed the planning stage, and the second campaign is shorter in time than the first Soyuz campaign was. We gained considerable experience from that first mission, which allows us now to optimize things and improve our operations all around.
Well, it's really great to see Dmitry here in French Guiana in this position. Actually, he used to be a colleague of mine at the time I worked at Storsem in the first years of this decade, Josh.
Continuing our presentation of the key players, this is for the Pléiades satellite team, the Arianespace Program Director, Thomas Panazzo, and the satellite's own mission director. Now, this is where you are usually working down there.
Yes, Josh. Thomas is one of my colleagues, and you may have already heard Thomas in my place commenting launches. Is the one with this very, very charming Italian accent. No, but more seriously, program directors are in charge of coordinating launch services from contract signature until launch, and even beyond with post-flight analysis and contract closeout. There are the unique points of contact and interfaces with Arianespace's customers.
Arianespace offering a one-stop shop then for the customers, one-point person.
This is exactly what it is. Yeah.
From signature to the contract all the way through post-launch reports.
Post-launch and contract closeout, correct.
Outside again for a first brief look at the launch vehicle. Soyuz stands 46 meters tall, is in 4 stages. We'll come back to each one and describe it in turn while they're functioning. But for now, this is not the same version of the Soyuz that flew in October.
No, you're right, Josh. Though in second position in the launch manifest, today's vehicle, the STA, was actually ordered and manufactured before the one which flew on October 21st, the STB. There are 2 major differences. The first one lies in the third stage, which is equipped with a different engine, RD0110 instead of RD0124, based on a stage combustion cycle, which is slightly less powerful. And the second difference lies in the fourth stage frigate, which is an older version than the first flight frigate MT with less propellant capacity and a lower payload mass capacity as well.
Countdown, as for the Ariane 5, includes all the final preparations for the launcher, the space base, and the launch site. That is what's going on now. More key players. Like the Ariane 5 flights, we have a range operations manager and a mission director. This is the range operations manager. They work in tandem. Tonight, Thierry Vallet, he had the same role in October for the first flight. And you'll be hearing his voice call out some of the milestones. He's relaying information sent into him from the various other posts along the base, working side by side with the mission director.
Yes, and the mission director belongs to Arianespace's program directorate, and he receives a delegation from the program director we saw a little bit earlier in order to coordinate the launch services technical activities on site during the launch campaign. The launch campaign being the very last phase of integration after many months or sometimes even years of work. It's like the last mile of a marathon for which the mission director does receive the relay from the program director for technical coordination on site.
A first look at the satellites now, like we gave you for the launch vehicle. Inside the fairing, tonight 6 passengers, the upper passenger, the Pléiades. The upper passenger is usually, not always, the heaviest one and separated first. It is the case tonight. Pléiade weighing just under a ton. Below Pléiade there is an adapter, and under this adapter is something called ASAP-S, which you're going to tell us about in just a minute. This holds the 4 ELISA satellites. Inside ASAP-S is SSOT. So what is ASAP-S, please?
ASAP-S stands for Adaptation Structure for Auxiliary Payloads on Soyuz. It was built by EADS CASA in Spain and holds the 4 ELISA microsatellites, which are located